A feature of the Power Farming Show is a group of seminars put on by businesses and educators. One of those talks focused on the future of energy in farm and agricultural production. Mark Olinyk from Harvest Energy Solutions spoke on the energy panel about the challenges and benefits of wind and solar power. He sees a bright future for solar, no pun intended, but some challenges for wind. On a large scale, China is the leading country in wind power capacity. The U.S. ranks second. While the sector continues to grow, it also faces uncertainty in the expiration of a federal wind energy production tax credit. The number of small turbines for homes or farms or businesses actually declined in 2011. We talked with Mark Wednesday about the future for solar and the current challenges in the wind energy production.
The challenges for, well, you probably want to specify big wind compared to small wind, but let's talk about big wind. The challenges of big wind going forward are costs and transmission. Transmission is huge. When you've got a big wind project in Nebraska, for instance, you don't have the big cities that really need the energy. That energy needs to be shipped to at least Omaha, probably Chicago and beyond, East Coast ideally. And the the costs are huge.
What about infrastructure?
Well, the infrastructure that's there isn't strong enough, isn't big enough for it. And so the infrastructure, the transmission lines, that's probably half the cost, sometimes more.
And the turbines?
The turbines, the cost keeps coming down, but very slowly compared to other sources like solar. The solar costs have come down dramatically in the last few years, whereas wind has come down, but not as fast.
So small scale, I'm sure there are some farmers who use it on their operation, but is it more difficult to pay it off for wind?
For wind, the smaller the turbine, the higher the slower the return on investment.
So for farmers, do you have a lot of farmers that use it?
We have many more farmers using solar than wind.
All right, what's the appeal of solar then?
The appeal of solar is that our typical product has a 25-year production warranty, as opposed to wind, which has 5. The initial cost of installation for solar has come down dramatically in the last 3-4 years, to where 3 or 4 years ago it may have cost $8 a kilowatt installed. Now it's down to about $4 a kilowatt installed, whereas wind hasn't come down at all.
What are the logistics of solar, the cost to put it in, the space that it takes up? If you're going to do this on your own operation, what would it take?
I'm sorry, for solar or wind?
For solar.
For solar.
Excuse me.
Everybody seems to be a little bit concerned about solar because of the space that it takes up. But at Harvest, we focus on wind and solar for farmers in the Midwest. We understand farmers, they have space, and when we say, well, it's going to take up about 120, for instance, a 20 kilowatt system may take up 100 feet in length and about 12 foot in depth. Sounds like a big area, but there's always space behind a barn or on a barn or adjacent to some place where you need electricity, and the space really isn't that big of an issue, even though when you first start talking about space, it's a concern.
What can you get from your return there? How much energy can you get back, enough to power what on the farm?
Well, again, it depends on how
Sure.
much, what your investment is
Sure.
and what size. A typical household in the United States uses about 12,000 kilowatt hours a year. And in Nebraska, that's about a 10 kilowatt system. But typical farmers don't live in an average home. They'll use more. I've got a small wind turbine at my house, and I'm putting in a 20 kilowatt system, solar system. And that'll probably take care of most of my needs.
You said yesterday during the panel discussion that China was having a big impact on cost. Why is that? What's all playing in there?
As with most industries, the Chinese are getting involved with the manufacturing and production of solar panels and other components. When they do that, typically the Chinese government is involved with those businesses, subsidizing those businesses, letting the prices go down. And as the prices are lessened, it forces the competition in the United States to drop their prices. Therefore, it's forcing the price of solar down.
What's the outlook for a renewable tax credit? You said it's until 2016, is that correct?
There's a 30% investment tax credit on renewables that is in place through the end of 2016. So with a $100,000 investment, you initially would get a 30% reduction from that as a tax credit.